Crit here for your news roundup of the week of February 12th, 2018.
Our first story, Asmodee has acquired yet another company. This time it is Mayfair, which includes Lookout Games and a couple other companies underneath their belt. So they previously purchased the rights to Catan just a little while back. Now they have got everything else involved with Mayfair and Lookout Games, including Agricola, all the other properties under their belts. This is a big one. It's our second week in a row where we've mentioned Asmodee buying a new company. Maybe a part of every news roundup going forward. It could be just a regular, traditional, recurring segment. But this one in particular is interesting because, as I said, they already had Catan, which is basically Mayfair's bread and butter. That was basically their big thing. It's also kind of unique because this wasn't a case where Asmodee went straight out and purchased them for themselves. Mayfair sort of made a statement that they were winding down themselves in the publishing area and were looking for someone to buy them out. So they kind of went to Asmodee and said, hey, you guys seem like you need another company. You want us?
Yeah, this does seem to be more of, I think, Mayfair just seeing maybe they couldn't felt like they could compete in the current market against the titan of Asmodee. And then suddenly their games become unpublished, and then everyone goes like, where's this game I used to love? Because that always happens. They'd be, well, at least we can give it to Asmodee so they'll keep it going.
Yeah, and I mean, even in besides Asmodee, you know, Mayfair, I think Lookout almost is the more prominent company at this point, even though the two were kind of put together in a lot of people's minds. Because again, outside of Catan, they had some big ones like Patchwork came out of Mayfair. But for the most part, their games, they didn't have the same kind of lineup that I feel a lot of other companies do. And I think it makes sense that it seemed like maybe they just weren't interested. They had the Catan, they lost it. They kind of wanted to get out of the business. I don't know. But we'll see Agricola and all those soon. Asmodee hasn't said whether or not they're going to keep the Mayfair logo or that name yet or anything like that. But they have done that in the past, so I don't see why they wouldn't.
That's usually because I think the other companies in question that have done that, like I'm thinking, you know, Fancy Flight,
Plaid Hat.
They are still, it seemed more like they merged and they're just like, keep the logo so people don't think we're doing Monopoly.
Right.
But Mayfair seems like it was already going down, so I can see Asmodee like, look, we're just going to put our logo on there because Mayfair just might be disappearing. I don't know how much of their staff is going over to.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a good point to raise. Yeah, I don't know either. Another interesting thing is what Gen Con is going to look like this year, because Mayfair has always had a big presence kind of sponsoring Gen Con. And if that's now Asmodee, just turn right over to them, that means that's basically all you're going to see everywhere you look at Gen Con.
We're going to visit the Asmodee booth, then visit the Asmodee booth, then the Asmodee booth.
Should be a great time.
In other news, North Star Games, the company that brings us games such as Evolution and Wits and Wagers, has two new sale policies that will be coming into effect later this month and next. The first one is a MAPP policy. This pretty much means that games cannot be sold below a minimum value. This is pretty simple, just can't sell it. This is probably more towards internet sellers, so they can't just undercut everyone else. And the other big one, which is I think much more interesting, is a channel restriction. This is going strictly at Amazon, saying that from now on, only 2 companies can sell their games in the third-party area. Anyone who isn't part of that has until late February or March to sell out all their stock.
It's interesting to see this wave of, it seems like every company now is doing the MAPP thing for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing a lot of games like, well, I don't know how big in board games are. I know a lot of stuff people will be like, I'm not going to wait until it's on a big sale or this. So a lot of companies, I think, are starting to realize, like, we need our product to be seen. No, this is a $50 game. This is a $40 game. And I think that's one of the big reasons that's happening. And the other one is, I do think this is much more helpful for the friendly local gaming store idea, because I don't know any that don't sell it at MSRP. And it's sort of hard to be like, yeah, I could buy it from you, or I can get it for $20 less on Amazon.
Yeah. Let us know as consumers what you guys think, if you are happy or not so happy about prices going up. In March, USAopoly has announced they will be coming out with a Wrinkle in Time board game just in time to coincide with that new movie, the new live-action Disney version based on the classic children's novel. This is a licensed game, but it maybe has a unique wrinkle to it. They say it is based on STEM skills, such as science, technology, immigration, marmalade, I'm pretty sure. And it is a cooperative game where you're going to be working together to solve puzzles, where it almost sounded like an escape room-esque kind of experience, which is an interesting way to take it. Maybe they're doing something in a little more of an interesting direction than just your standard licensed game. USAopoly coming off of, for instance, the Harry Potter deck building game, which certainly is a step up in that department as well.
Well, I definitely think they had to look at this, like, unlike Harry Potter, which is definitely childhood, but I think a lot of its fans have grown up in that middle, like, teen to this. I think this book, while sure, I did not read this, I'll admit. You have, I bet.
I have read it.
And there's probably plenty of people who have, but I still think it's probably one of those books that be like, you give like a very young child to read. So like, let's make it something young and fun for them to do, and probably to be bought, like for parents, they want to maybe add that educational element to it.
Yeah, educational to boot.
But we'll see. I could completely fall flat on its face.
We'll find out when it releases in March.
Cryptozoic has announced a plethora of games coming out within the next year or so. Of course, one of the big ones are Rick and Morty games. The first one is a quick sequel of the deck building game we've talked about before. It'd be similar to all their other ones. But the other one is The Ricks Must Be Crazy. Based on the episode, The Ricks Must Be Crazy. In this, you'll be playing as different scientists, and Morty, collecting energy throughout the different verses. If you don't recall this episode, or haven't watched the show, pretty much they find out that they've been going from between verses within verses within verses to generate power and pretty much steal it from each other. You'll be doing the same thing by going between different verses, and depending on where you are, you'll have either more actions, but the technology may be less, more primitive. So it's a balance between, do you want more actions, or are you able to build better stuff? And also power will flow upwards, meaning that you may not get the energy you need because people could steal it from you.
Yeah, I thought this sounded like a pretty interesting concept for a game mechanic. We don't really know the full rules or anything, but it kind of sounded like a push your luck thing, where it's like, how deep do you want to go, and maybe you'll come out ahead because you have so much stuff, but you might just get unlucky and it'll backfire on you.
Well, it seems to push your luck not in the sense of the simple like dice roll push your luck or card draw, but more of the push your luck with your opponents, what they're gonna do. Like, maybe I'll stay up here so I can use better technology, but I'm sure they'll get the power, and then you go down one and you go, nope.
Right. If it's like, if everybody else is going low, then you kind of got to read the, kind of like when we played Clank, and it's like, oh, that one guy went for the treasure, you got to go for it too. Yeah, and it's another step in Cryptozoic's quest to adapt every episode of Rick and Morty. Cryptozoic has also announced The Arrival to release on February 21st. This is a game from designer Martin Wallace, the guy who brought us Age of Steam, among other things. And basically, you and your fellow players will be trying to gain control of ancient Ireland, fighting each other. I believe there's also mention of demons in there along the way. This is a game that you've been able to play before, but Cryptozoic has taken it and kind of put a new shine on it with some new artwork, possibly some small tweaks to the way the rules work here and there. But if you're familiar with Martin Wallace games, no doubt it will be a quality one, probably more on the Euro side of things. Just speculating, as we have not had the chance to actually play the game for ourselves. But you will be able to find out very soon, as again, The Arrival arrives on February 21st.
Of course, this wouldn't be a Cryptozoic large game announcement without some DC deck building game news. We actually have two new releases, DC Rebirth and DC Crisis 4. Rebirth will actually feature a new movement mechanic with pawns that will move across the board. In addition, villains will not be added to your deck, but will be one-time rewards. They'll be both cooperative and competitive mode, and it seems that in the competitive, villains will be captured for victory points and can be used to bribe other players.
Oh man, I love a little bribery.
Yeah, no idea of what you're bribing them for. Don't buy that card.
I'll give you some victory points if you give me that card.
Crisis seems to follow the path of the others, as each one seems to be focusing on whatever the last set released. This one, Teen Titans, was the last big box. So this one focuses on the Titans, which will introduce Unity, a new mechanic to help working together, but personal crisis cards, in which each person will have a personal crisis, which they must focus on, but everyone will lose if they are unable to help their own problems.
Do you think it will time in with the Teen Titans Go movie release?
It might. I don't know. They could be that or that TV show.
Yeah, that's true. Lots of stuff coming. A brand new Dungeons & Dragons book will be released by Wizards of the Coast on May 29th. It is called Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, and somewhat similar to their previous release, Volo's Guide to Monsters, it's going to be sort of an addendum to the monster manual with a bunch of new interesting information on stats for monsters, as well as some backstory for certain races. For instance, they mention the rivalry between the Drow and the Elves, among other things, as featuring in there. So you're going to be able to use that as a player, possibly for your character's backstory, things like that, or obviously if you're a dungeon master, you can find all kinds of ways to throw that information into your campaign, along with these weird new monsters. And they said that on May 18th, before the official release, some special local stores may have an alternate version with a different cover on it. So that's kind of cool if you want that swag to show off to your friends.
Well, it might look nice on the shelf.
It might look nice on the shelf.
A new addition to the Sentinels of the Multiverse line, Sentinels of Freedom is a new digital game based on the new Sentinels RPG coming out later this year. This game will actually allow you to create a new character, build a team of other heroes, and interact with an interesting campaign story that's turn-based with a living environment and an AI that will adjust to your moves. This seems very interesting, coinciding with their RPG to make a digital version along with it. It'll be coming to Kickstarter April 3rd.
Yeah, I mean, this is not the first time there's been a digital Sentinels game, but the first time there's been one from the ground up made for a digital platform. They also mentioned that it is going to possibly be on certain consoles unannounced, so maybe a Switch version. You can have it on the go.
That's what we're always hoping for here.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a natural evolution from tablets or PC or what have you. But yeah, that sounds kind of cool. I also like that you can make your own character. You can even team up heroes and villains to be on the same team if you want. So it sounds like they are really capitalizing on the Sentinels franchise. They understand they have something cool there, and it sounds like they're exploring it in as many ways as they possibly can. Marvel made an interesting announcement this week. They are coming out with a brand new Deadpool comic in May titled Are Deadpool. And the reason we're talking about this on a tabletop gaming show is that it's actually going to be an interactive comic, sort of like a choose-your-own-adventure, where depending on what happens in the book, you can choose to go to a certain numbered panel, making choices that way. However, some of those panels will actually require you to roll dice. It's sort of going to be a very fourth wall breaking, interactive, print and play kind of solo game experience.
Oh my god, Deadpool fourth wall breaking?
Who would have thunk? And it's going to be very simple. You're only going to need 1d6. But if you have more, it might be a little easier. I think Deadpool rolls 2, and then you roll another one to see what you're up against, something like that. And there will be, of course, twists and turns and mini games along the way to interact with. They put up some preview pages of the first issue on Twitter, and it seems pretty fun and cool and like a really neat idea. It's even going to be an ongoing series where supposedly stuff like your inventory will actually carry over if you've been reading it from issue number 1. I think it's a great concept, and I would love to see them, if it's successful, do that with different characters. Obviously, it makes a lot of sense with Deadpool. He's like talking to the reader and stuff like that. But it's just, it seems like there's a lot of these kind of interactive story pen and paper games that are sort of making kind of a resurgence right now.
It's definitely interesting, and yes, Deadpool's the obvious one to go to for this. I really hope if they do follow through with, continuing to grow this, that it stays, I want to say, in its own little bubble, in the sense that if you follow comics, you may know, like, all right, I read Spider-Man number 252, what's next? Oh, now I need to go to Avengers 251.2. And then you need to go to Spider-Wars 253, then back to Spider-Man, then back to Spider-Wars, then to Avengers. Like, as long as it keeps like a nice central, because it can be really confusing to follow those sometimes.
Yeah, that'd be nice. It'd be nice if they keep it simple. Maybe that's even part of the, if you fail this role, you must buy a different comic. Otherwise, you're just stuck. Again, that'll be coming out in May.
Good news for gamers on the go with iPad tablets. Tabletopia has released a beta for the iOS Apple tablet system, which allows you to play 6 games from their catalog, and hopefully more to come soon. This is very interesting and nice because a game on the go would be really awesome for plenty of those games, especially when you can't fit 6 12x12 boxes in your suitcase.
Yeah, I also think this is probably could be really great for designers and indie designers who go to conventions and things like that. A lot of times they have test beta demos of these games on Tabletopia, and to be able to just bring out a tablet and say, here it is, try it out at a table or a booth or whatever.
You can fit a lot more games with a lot less space.
Yeah, absolutely. So we like Tabletopia. We've tried it before. It's been pretty good, so be looking forward to that. That's your board game news roundup for the week of February 12th, 2018. Till next time, this is Roll for Crit.
Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave some comments down below.
Do it!